Hi everybody, thanks for coming to check out Crafting Party of One. Today we're going to make these creepy candles. You'll see some finished photos at the end. What we're going to do is take some pool noodles, we're going to cut them to different lengths, and then we're going to stick some tea lights in there. But in between that, we're going to decorate them with some hot glue around the top so that they look like they're actually melted wax. At the very end, I placed them all out on a pizza tray that I've painted gray from the Dollar Tree. And this floral is also from the Dollar Tree, along with this little skull, which I took the time to age, which you'll see in the finished product. So, we're also going to paint all of this black. Obviously not the skull, but, the pool noodles and everything so that they give off a nice little creepy vibe. Now, I will tell you that the tea light candles, I went through a little phase where I tried to paint them black, did not work out well. Maybe try to search for black ones. But what I would really suggest is maybe finding some LED lights to put inside of them instead. And maybe find a way to make it look more like a flame, because pulling these LED candles in and out every time you want to turn them on and off is not fun. So here we are cutting these to length. You can use any kind of utility knife that you want. And there's no rhyme or reason to this. These were not my idea. They've been all over the internet. And I figured it'd be a fun craft to put up on my YouTube for spooky season, which I'm maybe mildly obsessed with, but whatever. Also, at the end of this video, you'll see that I have placed this with the pumpkin that I made with my son. We were having our little crafting day a few weeks ago, and I will include what I used to make that in the description underneath the video here. It was very simple, just Mod Podge and napkins, basically, and a craft pumpkin that I got either Michael's, Joann's, I'm not sure. They're also selling small craft pumpkins at Dollar General if you'd like to make a smaller version of the pumpkin that I made. You'll have to pardon my inability to work the camcorder. This is maybe the first video I've created on my own. So, as you can see, I'm not still trying to figure out placement on these, and even now that I have it completed, I'm still not 100% certain that I'm happy with it. I mean, you can make as many of these as you want. I've recently been diagnosed with arthritis, and so I can't do a whole lot of crafting at once because my hands start to cramp. I actually worked on this over the course of quite a few hours. So you can make this as big a project or a small project as you want. Just utilize your creativity and your imagination on this one, because it's just, it was so much fun to make, and it's very simple. It's time consuming, but it's simple. Also, you don't have to use this matte acrylic paint that I use. You can use spray paint. Just be careful what kind of spray paint you use. Surprisingly, the cheaper spray paint works better. The Krylon tends to melt it. If you've ever done any crafting with styrofoam, you know it's very easy to accidentally melt styrofoam with any kind of a spray, anything, even a spray sealant. So I would stick with taking the time to paint it. Plus, then after you've done all the hot glue around the top edges, that you're getting into all the nooks and crannies. But again, that's preference. You do whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. So, the next thing that you'll see me do is cut along the top edge to kind of make it look like the candles are melting unevenly before I do the hot glue. Again, not something you absolutely have to do. If you want this to be a quick project, you can leave them flat on top so they look a little bit more like those electronic candles. I was really happy with the way they turned out when I finished all this, and yet again, no rhyme or reason. If you have a foam cutter, feel free to use that. The utility knife worked out just fine for my purposes, but if you're not comfortable using a blade, you'd rather use the foam cutter, go ahead. I was just kind of going by the skin of my teeth here. I didn't see any tutorials. I didn't get any, the only person that I got a suggestion from is my friend Dee Dee, who had already made one of these on her own. So I hadn't seen any videos teaching people how to do this, so I thought I'd make one. If you see one out there and it's better, feel free to follow it. If you have any suggestions for improvements that you found on your own as you made it on your own, go ahead and add them in the comments. I wish I knew who had made this the first time so that I could give them credit for it. Now, you see me carving out the inside of this pool noodle, which, by the way, I had a hard time finding, believe it or not, because of the season, so you might want to pick these up, if you can find them on clearance. But you can see that the candle does not fit in there, so I went ahead and made a little guide for myself, pressing the candle down into the foam, which allowed me to see the minimum of where I needed to cut it out at. Now what you'll want to do is make sure that you create like a little shelf in there to hold your candle up. So only carve down as deeply as you want. Like if you don't want the candle to be showing above the foam at all, you want to cut it down a little bit deeper, etc., etc. Which is what I wanted to do because I wanted them to look as realistic as possible. Only to find out that it was very hard to get those candles in and out because I carved them way too tight. So you might want to give yourself a little bit more space in there. But again, that's entirely up to you. If you plan to use LED lights possibly instead, you wouldn't need to worry about that so much. They'd probably fit right up through the tube as is. I would say that this and the hot glue was the most time-consuming part of this project. If you have a glue gun that maybe has I don't even know if they make them. If they do, please show me where to find one. A trigger that is automatic or much easier to press because my hands were hurting by the time I was done putting all the glue on this. And I may have gone a little overboard. I tend to do that when I do these kinds of projects, so who knows. And there's my finished first one, and I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of these, and we'll see where we're at. I really like this matte acrylic paint that I picked up at the store. I love to buy those plain colors in bulk, and I feel like that's the way to do it. So I'm going to show you what I did with the glue gun along the tops of them to make them look like actual melting candles. My son and I previously, when we made the pumpkin, also made some white candles to hang from the tree in our front yard. So they look like they're floating, like from the Harry Potter franchise, which I may be mildly obsessed with. If you know me at all, you'll know that that is an understatement. Where are my Harry Potter fans out there anyway? So what we're going to do is just put glue along the top edge of this foam where we cut it so that it looks a little bit more melty as opposed to, rough and cut. As you can see, make sure you flip your stand back on your glue gun or it's going to get stuck in everything. So now what we're going to do is create the drips. Now there's probably a better way to do this, and if you know it, please drop it in the comments so everybody else can learn. It was an interesting process learning how to do this on those smaller candles, so I felt like on these bigger ones we needed even more drippy looking wax because there's just more wax with a bigger candle. So I took my time. I would say it maybe took me about half an hour to an hour to get all that wax on there, so thankfully I didn't make you guys watch all that. So here I am trying to make sure I get into all the nooks and crannies with that matte black paint, and I really like the way it turned out, but I'll warn you, if you squeeze them, the paint will crack. So just make sure that you let it dry completely before you put on a second coat, and I did need a second coat, just because the green was so bright, it showed right through. Now I am going to try to make a Christmas version of these. Depends on how I'm feeling and where my time's at, because I plan to do a lot of homemade Christmas gifts this year, just because I can't get out and go shopping. So we'll just have to see how that all ends up. Now, once I finished painting all these, like I said, I had a Dollar Tree pizza tray. I painted it gray, and I used double-sided tape to hold all these together so that I could rearrange them if I chose to. You can obviously choose to hot glue them together however you like. And I was very happy with the final product, which you'll see at the end. Now, I took my skull, which I also purchased at the Dollar Tree, and I just went into the little nooks and crannies and made them look a little moldy and a little old and a little green. Just made them look slightly more creepy. Just took a couple minutes. It was well worth it. I dry brushed over him, and I really enjoyed the way he turned out at the end. It made his teeth look a little more gross. I don't know. It just made him look more old. It was a very entertaining process for me, trying to find all the dips and shadows and highlights, and you don't have to do that. And here's our finished product. I added a few pumpkins, and I took the spiders out of the bouquet and stuck them right into the candles. And I was really, really excited with this project. I had a blast making it, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed watching it too. Thanks.